50 years, National Public Radio, or NPR, has given the United States insight on important stories. Through this presentation, we will show you some history of NPR, the setback of the expansion of NPR, and finally, the modern development. NPR was founded in 1970, with the first air date in 1971. NPR started off small with the first president, Donald Quayle, alongside with 30 other employees. They started producing in Washington, D.C., and first aired a broadcast on April 20th, 1971. This made a huge statement because of the major story that was going on, the Vietnam War. According to Popcorn.com, it covered more than 20,000 people protesting in Washington, D.C. on the Vietnam War in Southwest Asia. The second major broadcasting event on NPR was done with Robert Conley on May 3rd, 1971, on the show All Things Considered. Along with the news coverage, NPR has done many different things that changed the face of journalism. In 1972, NPR brought Susan Stamberg to host All Things Considered. She was the first female anchor on a national U.S. network news broadcast. From there, the news station took a risk.
Since NPR had become so successful in the 1980s that as a company, they wanted to expand. This expansion, named Project Independence, was very ambitious and was supposed to lead to them to get rid of the use of federal funds to operate. The plan, as stated on webarchive.org, was to increase operations, which would generate more profit by developing more usable space in which they would negotiate venture plans to use their satellite channels. This plan was so ambitious that it ended up putting NPR at the edge of bankruptcy due to bad management and incorrect budgeting. Luckily, NPR was able to make a deal with the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, or CPB, in which they would pay off NPR's debt in exchange for their annual stipend they give to public broadcasters. This did not deter NPR from ever trying to expand again. Quite the opposite. This time in 2002, they had moved to the West Coast and, according to NPR.org, had increased the amount of production hours by 120. This means that those working in the DC area office had less stress to create broadcasts and made operations smoother for the ever-growing hand of public radio. The goal in mind for this operation was not incentivized by profit, but instead the need to have a second HQ in case of disaster. After the 9/11 terrorist attack, NPR realized that in order for them to keep broadcasting in the event of a disaster, they would still have one functioning building on the other side of the country.
NPR has changed a lot since its origin. However, according to NPR's website in the Overview and History section, they still provide important news to people all over the country and even the world. In this modern era, they simply seek to deliver that news in new and exciting ways. With the advent of digital media and other technology, NPR has developed a new, modern method of reporting quality news. For example, NPR listeners might be familiar with radio talk shows such as Fresh Air, hosted by Terry Gross, which, according to Encyclopedia Britannica, began in 1975. Originally, listeners could only tune in via radio. However, fast forward over 40 years later, and now listeners can enjoy Fresh Air as a podcast, located conveniently on NPR's website, ready to stream directly to their electronic devices. Furthermore, NPR has firmly become a primary source of news for many consumers who rely on them for everything from breaking news to long-term stories. Whether they are reporting via radio or through one of their digital platforms, they continue the practice of independent and diverse journalism. Modern NPR takes pride in being a fair, relevant, and editorially independent source of news on even the most controversial and complicated subjects. In summary, NPR began as a small organization of just 30 employees. They grew by covering major stories that grabbed the attention of the nation and even changed the way journalism was practiced. As they grew, new challenges arose, such as their near bankruptcy in the 1980s. However, they survived and continue to cover the news, innovating and adapting with modern technology. From humble beginnings, NPR has become a worldwide news organization that continues to hold strong to its original values of fairness and independence. With the advent of digital media and other technology, NPR has developed new, modern methods of reporting quality news.